A very good evening and a warm welcome to a second edition of UBC News Tonight on this 29th day of August 2021. Now, before we get into our news bulletin this evening, let's first take a look at tonight's headlines. And in our headlines tonight, President Museveni and Ethiopia's Prime Minister in bilateral meetings. A UPDF engineering brigade willing to undertake construction contracts. Egypt rolls out locally produced Sinovac vaccine. And in sports, Uganda Cranes lose to Ethiopia by 1-2 goals in a friendly match. Good evening once again and welcome to UBC News Tonight on this 29th day of August 2021. I'm Lauryn Kazimoto and Mohammed Mugalu on sign language. Now we start off with the first headlining story this evening. President Yoweri Museveni has met and held a bilateral meeting with the Prime Minister of the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia, Abiy Ahmed Ali, who is in Uganda on a one-day working visit. The two leaders discussed various issues and agreed to further strengthen cooperation in bilateral, regional and international issues of common interest. Ethiopia and Uganda have been cooperating in various peace processes in the region. The meeting was attended by Ethiopian Minister, Head of Prosperity Party Main Office, His Excellency Abinath Adwahalem, the State Minister for Foreign Affairs of Ethiopia, His Excellency Redwan Hussein, and His Excellency Alemtseha Meseret. And the meeting was also attended by Uganda's Minister for Foreign Affairs, General Jeje Odong, and Uganda's Ambassador to Ethiopia and Uganda's Permanent Representative to the African Union, Rebecca Amuge Otengo. Right now, the Chief of Defence Forces, General Wilson Mbasu Mbadi, has appreciated President Yoweri Museveni for enabling the army to implement some of the government projects. Mbadi says the move will save government billions of cash through cheap labour and quality output. He was commissioning structures constructed by the army at Single Military School in Nakaseke district. Take a look.
Over the years, the country and police have been a laughingstock by many due to its poor residential houses. However, this trend is soon belonging to the past as the Army Engineering Brigade intensifies its construction projects. The Chief of Defence Forces, General Wilson Mbasu Mbadi, was commissioning army quarters at Single Military School in Nakaseke district.
Under phase 1, 54 houses for non-commissioned officers were completed. 8 dormitories which can accommodate a battalion, including the sanitation facilities, were also completed. We constructed an armory, a logistics store, a signal center, a fuel pump, and a VIP mess.
This is a leap forward from Mama Ingia Pole to these good-looking residential structures for the top army officers.
And as we are aware that a good infrastructure creates form of a city and enables life to go on, and life goes on well. It's also believed that investment in infrastructure is a long-term requirement for the growth and long-term factor that will make growth sustainable.
The army is equally confident that the environment is now safe as they will no longer infringe on grass and pasture.
And these modern structures now means no more environmental degradation to cut grass, as you have been seeing all over Mama Ingia Pole. But now this one, it has stopped, so meaning no environmental degradation. To build 1,000 manyatas, it means weather cannot now affect us or affect our training.
Each structure was built at less than 150 million shilling. This initiative is likely to save government a lot of money. Projects like roads, schools and medical facility construction across the country can now be undertaken by the Forces Engineering Brigade.
Infrastructure development using direct labor, our own. We have engineers wako hapa. Nadhani mlisikia hata His Excellency the President anasema hata hii watu yenye wanajenga mashule, hospitali pia waanze kutumia sisi. Industrial parks tuna kazi nyingi sana. Kwa hivyo wakikupatia kazi hapana chezea, hapana fanya nini?
This development comes in at a time when the president is equally concerned about the country's overrated and delayed construction projects. Robert Onyango, UBC News.
The Minister of State for Works, Musa Echweru, has criticized Omega Construction Company for a delayed bridge construction project. Omega was contracted to construct SEZIBWA bridge connecting Nakasongola to Kayunga district, but there is no sign to show that they are about to complete the work. This is after Nakasongola constituency Member of Parliament Noah Mutebi appealed to the minister to visit the area and see for himself the delayed work.
Omega Construction Company undertook to construct a bridge across SEZIBWA River between Nakasongola and Kayunga district early 2019. Construction was supposed to take only 18 months and be handed over by June 2020, but a year after, nothing shows that the bridge is nearing completion.
We are embarrassed, Honourable Minister, that Omega was given this contract in 2019, early 2019, and the contract period was to take only 18 months. I want to give you information, Honourable Minister, that the 18 months elapsed some time back, and they asked for extension of 6 months. Minister was merciful enough. They gave them the extension of 6 months. They also the 6 months also elapsed, and of course they asked for another extension. Also was given, but up to today the bridge is nowhere to be seen.
The Minister of State for Works, Musa Echweru, has been to Nakasongola district to check on the progress of the bridge construction. Echweru had no kind words regarding the delay to complete the works by Omega Construction Company. He has now given the company a deadline of only 2 months to have completed the work.
We have agreed, Madam, that in 2 months' time this culvert will be standing. And I want that 2 months to be 2 months. You have already paid these people a lot of money. Don't add any shilling to this group until work is seen. Yes. If I find you have added money, I will tell Nakalema to run with you. She will be driving while you are running on foot.
Currently, communities are relying on the use of boats to cross over the river. The minister advised the Omega Construction Company engineer in charge of the bridge, Lilian Nabisere, to reaffirm their commitment to complete the construction works without fail.
We know you're not happy with us, so we are pledging that in the 2 months that I've given, we'll put up the box culvert. And after the box culvert is in place, it is as good as finished. We'll just be doing the drainage for the road.
The minister also pledges to lobby for the tarmacking of the Zeroway Chichusa Bamgolode Nakasongola Road. Story compiled by Salungo Fred Kasibanti for UBC News.
Nachidinda Forest Reserve, one of the few remaining natural forests in Wakiso district, is being disseminated to residents, mainly during the 2 months COVID-19 lockdown. Now locals reportedly took advantage of the laxity and supervision by the National Forestry Authority to encroach on the forest reserve, cutting down indigenous trees for charcoal and timber. We have the details.
Nakindiba Forest Reserve in Kachiri Town Council, Wakiso District is under the threat of timber roggers and agriculturists. The encroachers are reported to have taken advantage of the requisite in supervision by the National Forestry Authority to cut down 1,200 hectares of forest reserve.
Ne wali ojja akamembo ofumita omwana wanga tukugoba. Gwabadde basikulabe
tetukumanyi. Awo byakambense.
Kali watu ova mu kibira.
Ati nkugenda.
Eri wali ekibanja kya kitaawo.
Sirinayo.
Kali wali ova kola yoki.
Nafeera tuwabuzibwa ngera.
Ekyo oyogera dafiti yogera bwoto. Ngamba omuludi gumu nti nkupardonizire todda. Bangi nabakwata. Nesagala kifuba yanga todda mu kibira kyo tukwegayidde. Genda okulowa omulimu omulala todda mu kibira.
The trees are being cut for charcoal, timber, after which it is prepared for agriculture.
Gwokujewa bajoti.
Ojira kugundi nga mukozi. Oli nagaji onkolera.
Kali gwokolera ani?
Ate simu mainange oli yagenda.
Wali okola yoki.
Otuwali tuti. Ngosomba mitinga woti.
Nange ndi muntu atemba namba. Boyogera bwoti naleka bangi. Nene mbawo woni ngesema todda mu kibira kuba kile bikyamugenda kifiramu.
Is a immense destruction of the forest which we believe is sanctioned by some powers we don't understand. Because whenever we call upon the leaders, we are not helped. Sometimes we call them at night when the machines are making noise, nobody dares to come.
The villages of Sujja, Chiterede, Lugeye, Sebi and Bukalango in Kachiri Town Council in Wakiso District are the most affected.
Omuntu sawa 3 za kiro batako kutema ekibira. Sawa 4 mpaka budde kumacha. Lenje abatasobola kujja. Nga talina bantu bamuyamba bana basajja batemu nnyo era bwe tunasingana kaba mu jabbalaba bakutta amajambia
abamala w'ekyebwanuka ate ne bajja bayika mu kyewange era abadde bakisensera nga bava Kachiri bwe batyo nga balumba Busujja yensonga lwaki ekibira kino kiweddewo era abadde balumba Busujja munnange owe Busujja kwe kuyingiramu n'akuba omulanga guno gwolaba olwaleero.
And when you talk to them they say the forest guard is on maternity leave for 2 weeks. We wonder, can this have been destroyed within only 2 weeks? All the way from Kachiri to here, 2.5 kilometers, it is just impossible. So we are just appalled. We don't know what to do. We are living in a place of lawlessness. The criminals are destroying the forest at will.
The local leaders are now asking political leaders to intervene and exert pressure on the National Forestry Authority to take up the responsibility on the forest reserve.
To the Executive Director, National Forest Authority, I drove to Bugorobi personally and delivered it. I have a copy of it at home, which is indicated it was received. There was no response. It is very unfortunate because during my school days we were told when one writes to you, even if you are not interested in what he is saying, at least you respond.
The chairperson of Busujja Village, Kibiriga Road, says the District Forestry Department has specific areas to look after, but not the natural forest reserves like that of Nakindiba. He believes that if the National Forestry Authority does not take action immediately, the biggest part of the forest reserve may vanish by the time the COVID-19 lockdown restrictions are lifted.
Era bannaffe abawagulu batavaayo ffe tubawaddeyo bakusula mu kibira tusule mu kibira tugenda kufuna amafumu amajambiya tukole kisoboka oba kyetaagisa kufiira mu kibira mulambo mujjagulamu abamawulire nga guli mu kibira.
The mayor Kachiri Town Council Bisaso Moses suspect that people with authority have equally contributed to the destruction of the forest.
I've already written to the Permanent Secretary Minister of Water and Environment. I've copied the same letter to the Executive Director of NFA. We cannot leave it to disappear. We cannot leave it to people who are having selfish interests to cut the trees, make charcoal, get firewood, get timber. We are ready to fight and see that this forest is kept so that the future generation will benefit from this forest as we have benefited.
He says the forest reserve has been encroached upon by individuals disguising themselves as investors. However, area local chairpersons blamed the forest authorities for not carrying out routine inspection of the reserve, thus giving room to encroachers to thrive without any control. Haruna Mutesa Sira, UBC.
Now, teachers across the country have been hardest hit by the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, as government ponders on how to safely open schools without losing the gains achieved, many teachers decided to seek new means of survival. Take a look.
Teachers across the country are among those affected by the COVID-19 pandemic and associated lockdown effects. Teachers were among the first group to be sent home in March 2020 when the country took measures aimed at nipping the spread of the virus in the bud. While teachers in urban areas, especially Kampala and Wachiso, managed to stay in active employment by conducting online classes, this hasn't been the case with teachers in rural Uganda. Months into the lockdown and with no hope of opening schools soon, Swadik Mukulia, a South Sudanese refugee, and Zainabu Chandru, who are teachers at Mengo Primary School in Yumbe district, decided to make good use of the land allocated to them at the settlement. Mukulia interested fellow teachers about the ongoing livelihood project rolled out by ADRA Uganda. These have so far planted the Nerika rice variety on 13 acres.
We sat down with my fellow teachers and we come up with this project of rice growing.
Because the little money which we have got from our salary is not help us to do some other works.
Swadik also called upon fellow teachers affected by the lockdown to stop wallowing about the current condition, but rather venture into productive activities.
Schools will be opened. It will get us when we have put something aside which will help us better than the teachers who are staying at home doing nothing, and sometimes even others. There are some teachers who are doing things which are not needed. I expect like 10 tons, and these 10 tons, if we shall sell them, approximately we shall get like 35 million or 40.
William Asio is the Assistant Settlement Commandant from the Office of the Prime Minister at Bidibidi Settlement, and he says farming activities have helped refugees on their food rations.
Funding is always very small, yet the population we have is big. For example, Bidibidi Refugee Settlement is hosting over 235,000 refugees. Zone 3 alone has about 52,000.
Sambu Sinje, who is the project coordinator working with ADRA Uganda, says priority was given to those affected by the COVID-19 pandemic.
The groups that have been supported with agriculture seeds have managed to establish the gardens. These gardens will be able to provide food for the communities. As you well know that most of the ratios have been cut down by 60%. So by supporting these groups with seeds and the agriculture tools, they're able to supplement the food ratios at home.
The Program for Education Advocacy and Child Education is a 14-month livelihood project promoted by the Adventist Relief Agency in Uganda that puts emphasis on inclusive education, livelihood, empowerment, and psychosocial support.
This is a pilot program, but we have already thought about coming up with another 3-year program for supporting the vulnerable young people, especially the South Sudanese refugees, but also the host community. Because according to the government of Uganda and Office of the Prime Minister, we have what we call REHOP. REHOP is a Refugee and Host Community Empowerment Program, which connotates and suggests that 30% of the support from the partners must go towards supporting the host communities, because this influx also increases the vulnerability of the host community and leave them more poor and challenged.
Ngabo Amon, reporting for UBC TV.
The State Minister for Higher Education, Dr. John Chrysostom Muyingo, has asked teachers, parents and learners to remain calm as government prepares to reopen schools. The minister says the Ministry of Education is now waiting for the Ministry of Health and scientists to give guidelines.
Teachers across the country have been commended for supporting the vaccination exercise against COVID-19. Vaccination of teachers against COVID-19 kicked off in Kampala and other areas a few days ago, and over 550,000 teachers and learners are expected to be vaccinated. The State Minister for Higher Education, Dr. John Muhingo, says the Ministry of Education and Sports will continue consulting the Ministry of Health and Science on the progress of the vaccination of teachers. Muhingo appealed to teachers, non-teaching staff, parents and learners to remain calm and comply to all SOPs and guidance by the Ministry of Health and Scientists.
When we allowed back to school, you need to have a vaccination certificate, and you must have been vaccinated. I would like to remind you and call upon you to take this exercise very seriously. The Ministry of Health has been kind enough to extend the service, medical services to some of our schools. Please take advantage of that arrangement and have all of you, all the teachers vaccinated.
Mr. Muhingo was addressing communities of Kamira Sub-County in Wero District and beneficiaries of Munanika Constituency Education Fund. Muhingo encouraged the youth to support emyoga and nuts to take advantage of the rainy season to plant some crops to guard them against hunger.
Kisoboka nawe kwampuliriza kwennyabo bakola kyo ofana n'otya ssebo. Kulabira bulabizi kunajjita kyakoze. Kiririzeemu okwekirizaamu okwo kutuwa amaanyi.
The function was attended by community members who commended Dr. John Muhingo for promoting education in their area.
Dr. Jesse Muhingo for paying my school fees, for putting a strong hand towards my studies. I thank you, sir, for that good heart.
These girls who are getting pregnant in early stages, but at least there has been a reduction due to the fact that you gave us bursaries and we went back to school.
Wabudewo dokita gwe tulina mu ssaza yalimu ebiseera ebyo. Dr. Muhingo baamuggyeeko ne bateekako oyinti kubaaziika nnyo. Mulabe ennono ye baamunanika bweri.
Close to 78% of Ugandan's population is comprised of youth below 30 years. However, reports indicate that the youth engagement in agriculture is declining amidst rising unemployment. Now, youth leaders believe that the involvement of young people in the decision-making can leverage the participation of youth in driving the economy forward. Take a look.
Young people under the age of 30 comprise 78% of the total population. This group faces employment challenges with the formal job creation lower than the rate at which the labor force is growing in the country. Although emphasis have been put in agriculture, youth participation in the sector is still minimal.
We know the challenges our young people are facing. So you cannot just come like tomorrow, then they say, we are bringing such and such a program. What if that is not the targeted area we are looking at?
Involve youth in decision making, in planning.
During this year's International Youth Day, President Yoweri Museveni promised that government will put more money into programs aimed to fight poverty.
Because we are planning on putting a cooperative, we want them to know that even if you go to school and you're not able to get a job, you can as well still come back and as well engage yourself in agriculture.
People are self-centered. And people look at themselves. That using the youth leadership structures at even national, at even the local level, we can form a very strong and formidable group of youth that can triumphantly move through the agriculture that we are talking about.
Empowering youth to have value addition also and sustainable agriculture. That's what we're looking at as Liracity Youth.
Maurice Chris-Ongom, a development expert and the CEO of GLOFORD Uganda, urged young people to use the inspiration of President Museveni to revolutionize their destiny.
Our budget must begin to reflect the population that we have in our country. We must ensure that even if we are putting money in YLP, in so many other innovation, grants for young people, we also invest in their capacity. You cannot get young people who have not earned 1 shilling and then invest 12 million in a group of 10 young people and you think they are going to create money.
The potential of youth in the agricultural sector is important, although they need to capitalize on value addition. Ediolwa, UBC News.
Thank you, Eddie Olwa. Now, a team of Egyptian and Ugandan doctors have conducted surgery implant aimed at providing a platform that can transform the lives of patients with hearing impairments. A cochlear implant is an electronic device surgically placed under the scalp with an electrode inserted in the inner ear.
A team of Ugandan and Egyptian medical specialists have carried out an operation to restore hearing loss among children. The surgical procedure took some time with an insertion made on the skin behind the ear for special cochlear device. A cochlear implant is an electronic device surgically placed under the scalp with an electrode inserted in the inner ear. The cochlear implant function is to bypass the damaged hearing organ by electrically stimulating the auditory nerve. The device enables someone to interpret sound ranging from speech, among others. The cochlea forms the inner ear, which transmits sound waves through cells that are transmitted to the brains, among others. The implanted cochlear device replaces the part of the damaged inner ear. It receives sound signals and sends them to the nerves, keeping the non-functioning parts in the ear. The Egyptian medics noted that they wanted to extend their expertise and knowledge to the Ugandan population.
As we know, the cochlear implant is the only known device to restore hearing among deaf people where the normal hearing aids are not functioning anymore. It's not a surgery and finish, it is a program. It starts by surgery to be followed by auditory rehabilitation and then phoniatric rehabilitation. It's now not the deaf child or the deaf person is not considered a crippled or a handicapped child with the use of cochlear implant. He can be enrolled in the normal schools and everything.
Hearing loss is the second commonest disability in the human race. Very many children are born without hearing, or people who lose their hearing in adulthood. Now, the hearing loss can be mild or moderate, or sometimes they're actually deaf. In the past, people who had no hearing completely were sent to School of the Deaf to learn how to communicate with sign language. But with cochlear implant surgery, we can actually make these people hear and be able to talk normally. Okay. Cochlear implant surgery is a complex operation, and in the past, people had to travel abroad in order to be able to access these services. But I'm happy over the last 3 years, we have started doing these operations within the country with the help of MEDEL and IHK. IHK has offered a center of excellence where these very delicate and complicated operations can be done.
Medics advise hospitals to start early screening in children, especially after birth, to revert the hearing loss problem.
Important to know from the start because there is a small window for children up to 5 years. If they are deaf from birth until 5 years, and if you pass that, the progress will not be the same, or it might not be very good. So, but if you catch them in the first 5 years, then they can go to streamline schools, everything will be normal, their pronunciation will be normal, hearing will be very normal. Okay.
Their ears are tested to find out whether they have a hearing problem or not. As I mentioned, it's a very common disability in the human race. In Uganda, we have not been doing routine testing of children at birth. However, the Department of ENT in Makerere, the one in Gulu, the one in Mbale, and the one in Mbarara, in the month of June conducted a survey across the regional referral hospitals, screening of children who are born at their first immunization. So when the children come in for immunization, they are all screened for hearing loss. And we are in the process of compiling the data so that we have some documentation that we can now take to the policymakers in the ministry to be able to convince them that this is something that we can introduce at all public hospitals across the country. And that would be able to help us to catch children who have got a hearing impairment much earlier.
At least 4 to 11% of Ugandans suffer from hearing loss, while 1 out of every 1,000 children are born deaf. Most causes of hearing loss are ear infections, advanced age, foreign bodies in the ear, and loud noise. Many Ugandans are in need of treatment, surgery, drugs, and hearing aids to restore their hearing, yet the procedure is very expensive. Zahara Abigawa, UBC News.
UBC News Tonight takes a very short break, but we will return with business news.
My home, I smile when I think of you, Uganda. My home. My home, I dance when I look at you, Uganda. My home, oh my Uganda.
I know, with you I'll always stay forever. I know, because I feel that we belong together. My home, under the sun so bright, under the moon at night, on my heart, mommy, oh my Uganda.
Hey mama,
My Uganda. My Uganda. My Uganda. My Uganda. Nigokona. My Uganda. Amari alemira. My Uganda.
nyowe nikugonza.
My Uganda.
Amina ngojo, amina ngojo.
At MTN, we look forward to starting another exciting journey together to grow our home, Uganda.
Echa COVID-19 chijja kugwa only if we stay at home, observe physical distancing, wear masks properly, sanitize or wash our hands with soap and water regularly, or get vaccinated now.
Five times the winning, yeah. 5 times the happiness, yeah. 5 times the luckiness, yeah. 5 for 5, oh yeah. It's 5 for 5. 5 for 5. 5 times the money, yeah. 5 times the shopping, yeah. 5 times the prizes, yeah. 5 for 5, oh yeah. It's 5 for 5. 5 for 5.
Win 100,000 Uganda shillings weekly in the 5 for 5 jackpot. Simply download the Center mobile app. Click Center on the go to open your account online. Transact 5 times or more using Center Mobile, Center Visa, and Center Agent to stand a chance to win. The more you transact, the higher your chances of winning. So, participate in the 5 for 5 jackpot and win millions in daily and weekly prizes. The 5 for 5 jackpot is brought to you by Centenary Bank. Our bank, Centenary Bank, is regulated by the Bank of Uganda. Customer deposits are protected by the Deposit Protection Fund.
Keep your eyes on the prize, eyes on the prize, eyes on the scheme. You gon' need eyes behind your back. Who you looking at? Who's looking at you? Blinded by love, maybe you need a better view. All eyes on you, all eyes on you. Biggie's eyes on you, Biggie's eyes on you. World's eyes on you, world's eyes on you. So what you gon' do? So what you gon' do?
Readjust your vision for the all-new season of Big Brother Naija, now streaming 24/7 on Showmax. Rated 18. Sign up at showmax.com.
buli munya-Uganda nayitinga amakuru marungi. UBC West eyina amakuru marungi kandi agali kwesigwa. Leero za programu zaayo ziri omu Lunyakitara hamwe n'Olufumbira. UBC West eyina tekinologiya ey'omulembe eri kugibaasisa kuhika omu bicweka byona omu ihanga nangu n'aheeru y'eihanga. Tukwatire aha frequencies ezo: Kisoro 97.7 Fama, Kalari 93.7 zemushanju fama hoima 99.1 fama kampala 5.7 fama mbarara 97.4 fama Futpoto 98.8 fama Masindi 5 fama Kurikiriza UBC West ohulire mbaganiza UBC West empika huna.
Brought to you by
Transact 5 times or more using Center Mobile, Center Visa, and Center Agent to stand a chance to win. The more you transact, the higher your chances of winning. So, participate in the 545 jackpot and win millions in daily and weekly prizes. The 545 jackpot is brought to you by Centenary Bank, our bank.
Well, welcome back from the break, and now we take a look at what's happening in the business scene this evening. Now, despite having a lower debt than some other African countries, Uganda's debt in 2020 crept past the 50% debt to GDP ratio mark. Now, foreseeing economic crises in the near future, civil society is urging government to implement various defensive strategies to curb the peaking debt. Now, this was at the African Conference on Debt and Development held at Hotel Africana in Kampala.
The African Conference on Debt, hosted by Uganda Debt Network, brought together political, technical, and civic leaders from Africa to deliberate and agree commitments that safeguard the macroeconomic sustainability of the continent.
The cost of PPPs, the contingent liabilities that come with it, should be understood further if we are going to discuss debt, because they are guarantees government make for such projects, and they come at a cost. There is a new animal taking place in our region of Albertine. The production sharing agreement, yes, it's a semblance of a direct foreign investment, but it is a recoverable cost.
Experts noted that Uganda has to check its borrowing appetite while refining domestic value, since the economy greatly hinges on the success of its neighbors with whom it transacts with.
We don't know where the politics of Kenya is headed. That is our first biggest trading partner, where we export. We also have, besides the gold that goes to UAE and maybe human beings, Kenya is our big trading partner. The other second trading partner is the South Sudan. As you have all noticed, trucks can no longer go there. So what does that mean to an investor? What does that mean to somebody who lent Uganda to build roads on the assumption that we are going to boost our production and export to the region?
In spite of the risky debt position, Uganda took on a credible medium-term program early this year, supported by the International Monetary Fund, in a bid to put downward pressure on debt. The program lies on 3 pillars, which are growth-friendly fiscal consolidation, high-quality spending, and strong governance.
The IMF has made available additional resources to boost liquidity of its members, the most recent of which is the global SDR allocation of 650 billion that was made available on August 23. It is important that these resources are used to boost international reserves and, where prudent and necessary, for budget support within the country's legal framework in respect of medium-term development plans and with utmost transparency.
As of December 2020, Uganda's total public debt hit a record of 65.82 trillion shillings, up from 49 trillion in 2019, with a 16.82 trillion increment due to increased government borrowing. Wadulo Makanold, UBC News in Kampala.
State Minister for Tourism Martin Mugalu has urged Uganda Tourism Board to work as a team in order to promote tourism in Uganda. He disclosed this while meeting the Uganda Tourism Board and other stakeholders at the UTB offices in Lugogo near Kampala. Details follow.
Uganda Tourism Board has revealed that while the COVID-19 pandemic has slumped tourism business, government has delayed to intervene with effective financing strategies to sustain the sector.
You know, if you have a budget of 25 billion, it's sliced down to 17 billion, then further sliced down to 9 billion for an entire institution. That is a cut of over, what, 70%, 80%, and you expect it to work with that. Of course, we understand that, yes, we're in a COVID time, there's been rationalization of funds across board, but still we expect it to deliver.
The State Minister for Tourism, Honorable Martin Mugalu, met Uganda Tourism Board and other stakeholders to share thoughts on how they can empower Uganda's tourism sector to stay afloat amidst the pandemic's effects.
So, but I believe that definitely, especially from my generation, that marketing is the only thing that is going to help us grow this sector. And some money for Ugandans, equally get some employment for our brothers and sisters. So I think as a team, let's work together. Let's come up with all. I'm new to the ministry. I'm just going to rely on what you guys come up with. And for us, we shall look for the money, like I've said time and again.
The problem is not so much with UTB or the organizations which are making budget proposals and submissions. The challenge is with those who are controlling the national purse. Now, the cure for that one is to be in a position to look at each sector and undertake a cost-benefit analysis on whatever is being proposed.
In spite of the gaps, Honorable Mugalu maintains that as more financing is solicited, more can still be done should competitiveness be portrayed in other ways.
Others may say, okay, let's localize
Uganda,
but being proposed.
In spite of the gaps, Honorable Mugalu maintains that as more financing is solicited, more can still be done should competitiveness be portrayed in other ways.
Others may say, okay, let's localize, buy Uganda, build Uganda, but sometimes you miss the other aspects of bringing internationalization, because some of this we have to open up.
The private sector came in, set up associations, and now we are working with the associations to make sure that the registration and the licensing of all the tourism operators is done, the way that it should be.
Most of the hotels have been closed almost now for a year and a half, and they are not going to revive until about 2025. And yet you have to meet utilities, that is umeme and water, whether you are closed or you are not. Have to pay taxes.
Uganda Tourism Board's mandate is to promote and popularize Uganda as a viable holiday destination, both locally and internationally, in order to increase the contribution of tourism earnings and GDP, and also to increase Uganda's share of Africa's and the world tourism market. Wadulo Mark Arnold, UBC News.
The Indigenous Baruli and Banyara Reparation Agency and Bunyoro Kitara Reparation Agency have supported government's clarion call to have the Milo land tenure system reformed or even scrapped. Their argument is that this system, especially after the 1900 agreement, left them squatters, ironically, on their ancestral land. Take a look.
With the land question in Uganda now at its peak, the Baruri, Banyara and Banyoro under Indigenous Baruri and Banyara Reparations Agency and Bunyoro Kitara Reparation Agency have joined the cause.
We want to correct the historical injustices that was inflicted to the people of Baruri and other areas that were taken as lost counties. So we want one thing, that the 1900 agreement be nullified. The good thing that we are in court, but we want the 1900 agreement be nullified because we cannot be Baruri and cultural institution without land. We must have land that was taken by the agreement of 1904.
These claim that the 1900 agreement rendered them squatters on their own land and are thus against the Milo land tenure system. This was confirmed in a meeting with the Sabaluri of Obukama Wabuluri at Kukibira Village, Nakasongola Town Council.
His Excellency, the way how he has really told the public that he wants to remove Milo lands, we can emphasize that one. We are behind that issue, that we are ready to support him on that issue.
The Sabaluri of Bururi Mwogezi Butamanya believes that once the land question is addressed, especially amongst those affected by the 1900 agreement, then peaceful coexistence will manifest.
Was brought to you by
The 545 jackpot is brought to you by Centenary Bank, our bank.
Be alert. Do not share your Airtel Money PIN number with anyone. Airtel Uganda employees will never ask for your Airtel Money PIN number on call, SMS, or by email. All SIM card registrations, SIM card verifications, or SIM swaps are done at clearly branded Airtel shops and not on phone. To report any fraudulent activity, please call 100 immediately. The official calling number for Airtel promotions is 0200 100 100. Stay alert on Airtel Money. Instant, secure, borderless.
All right, and now into the international scene. Egypt this week began rolling out its first locally produced COVID-19 vaccine in collaboration with Chinese drug maker Sinovac, aiming to bolster its ongoing vaccination drive with greater supply. The jab is called Vaccera Sinovac, which carries the name of the two manufacturers that collaborated in the production of the inoculation, as China has been supporting Egypt with a team of scientists to fully transfer the vaccine production technology. After getting the green light from the Egyptian Drug Authority on the 23rd of August, the Vaccera Sinovac COVID-19 vaccine is officially available this week in Egypt, as health ministry officials also announced the production of the first 1 million doses. Egyptians across the nation showed confidence in receiving the inoculation as the vaccination campaign is officially underway. Now, the Chinese government has always supported scientific origin tracing of COVID-19, but is opposed to the politicization of the study or using it to shift blame. This was disclosed during an exclusive interview in response to a U.S. report on COVID-19 origins, which does not rule out either natural exposure or laboratory incident as the origin of SARS-CoV-2. It is said that the fact that the U.S. origin tracing report was released by the intelligence community, not by professional medical institutions. China has fully cooperated with the high-level WHO experts during their trips to Wuhan earlier this year. The official stressed that origin tracing is a complicated issue of science. It should and can only be undertaken by scientists around the world with thorough joint research. And into sports, Ethiopia has beaten Uganda Cranes in the international friendly at Bahir Dar Stadium this Sunday in Mitchell's first game in charge. Yunus Sentamu's long-range strike was not enough as Mitchell's reign as Uganda Cranes coach started on a low note. Ethiopia took the lead through Nasir Abubakar before Abel Yelew doubled the lead in the 54th minute. Uganda Cranes were on the back foot for the best part of the game as the host controlled proceedings. Uganda Cranes had a late chance to level matters, but Joseph Ochaya was denied by the post from the free kick. The Uganda Cranes face Harambee Stars away in Kenya on the 2nd of September before hosting Mali at Chitende 4 days later. It is the first loss for the Cranes against Ethiopia since 1988 Sekafa. Ethiopia, who earlier played out a goalless draw with Sierra Leone earlier, visit Ghana on the 3rd of September and host Zimbabwe in World Cup qualifiers. Well, I want to thank you so much for your company this lovely evening. Do enjoy this bright new week ahead of you, and also a few days also coming into the new month. But also remember to maintain all the necessary standard operating procedures put up by the Ministry of Health to fight COVID-19 and kick it out of Uganda. I'm Lauryn Kazimoto and Mohammed Mugalu. We wish you a good night, but we leave you with tomorrow's weather forecast with Alex Kim Sempa. Good night.
It's the latest in weather from the Weather Center with Sempa Alex Kim. I hope you've enjoyed your weekend. Otherwise, this morning we had bright and sunny conditions across most parts of the country, though a little bit hazy because of dry winds coming in because of St. Helena over the southwestern that is partly continental and pushing dry winds into our region, carrying dust particles that are forming the haze. Otherwise, the rain belt is quite to the north away from our country, so we are still seeing sunny conditions. In the morning, we do expect to see sunny intervals across our skies, but in the afternoon, we do expect a pickup of rainfall activities, especially in the northeastern of the country, as well as parts of the western and along the Lake Victoria Basin. Because of that, we do expect temperatures to be relatively high at 31 degrees centigrade across Karamoja region, 28 in Kampala and the surrounding, and in Kabale Highlands we are forecasting at 27 degrees centigrade. And elsewhere across the globe, we are forecasting for Nairobi as well as Moscow and Paris chances of some light rainfall. But for New York, we do expect thundering rainfall. And for Dubai, bright and sunny conditions at a daytime high of 45 degrees centigrade. With that, we wrap it up. Join us again tomorrow, same time.
Echa COVID-19 chijja kugwa only if we stay at home, observe physical distancing, wear masks properly, sanitize or wash our hands with soap and water regularly, or get vaccinated now.
I smile when I think of you, Uganda, my home. My home, I dance when I look at you, Uganda, my home. Oh, my Uganda.